بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وإن الساعة لآتية فاصفح الصفح الجميل. وما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وإن الساعة لآتية فاصفح الصفح الجميل. إن ربك هو الخلاق العليم. ولقد آتيناك سبعا من المثاني والقرآن العظيم. الله ما شاء الله. لا تمدن عينيك إلى ما متعنا به أزواجا منهم ولا تحزن عليهم واحزن. لا تمدن عينيك إلى ما متعنا به أزواجا منهم ولا تحزن عليهم واخفض جناحك للمؤمنين. وقل إني أنا النذير المبين. الله أكبر. كما أنزلنا كما أنزلنا على المقتسمين الذين جعلوا القرآن العظيم فوربك لنسألنهم أجمعين. عما كانوا يعملون. الذين جعلوا القرآن عضين فوربك لنسألنهم أجمعين عما كانوا يعملون فاصدع بما
الله ما شاء الله.
الذين جعلوا القرآن عضين فوربك لنسألنهم أجمعين عما كانوا يعملون فاصدع بما
الله عليك شيخ مصطفى.
أحسنت الله.
فاصدع بما تؤمر وأعرض عن المشركين. إنا كفيناك المستهزئين. إنا كفيناك المستهزئين. الذين يجعلون مع الله إلها آخر فسوف يعلمون ولقد نعلم أنك يضيق صدرك بما
أحسنت ما شاء الله.
فسبح بحمد ربك وكن من الساجدين. فسبح بحمد ربك وكن من الساجدين. واعبد ربك حتى يأتيك اليقين. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
کنار قدم های جابه سوی نیلوا ره سپاری ستون ها به شوق حرم کنار قدم های جابه سوی نیلوا رهس باری ستون ها.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum ya Aba Abdullah. It is Arbaeen. Arbaeen is extraordinary. From the number of people that participate in the millions, some say 20 million people or even more, and also in the way that the Zawar of Imam Hussein, the pilgrims, the visitors of Imam Hussein are treated, from given anything that they need, anything that a Za'ir needs, as if that visitor of Imam Hussein is a king. The food that is provided, water given, shelter given, different ways to make sure that that visitor is comfortable. So it is remarkable. If a government wanted to feed 20 million people, it probably couldn't at that time, at a specific time period. But you see, this is an event that is organized by no or specific organization. It is just by the people. People have come there, they saved their money, either they be poor or rich. They saved their money to give in the way of Imam Hussein, to give in the way of the visitors of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Therefore, Arbaeen is remarkable. And many of us this year, we could not participate to visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We could not participate in visiting him in the month of Muharram, in the month of Safar. Therefore, we sincerely ask those that are able to visit him this year to make a few steps of the visit of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, which have high reward, and to inshallah give us the reward and make us inshallah partners of those that are visiting Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When you look at Arbaeen, you see the tradition from Al-Imam Al-Hasan Al-Askari about 5 signs of a believer. One of them being the ziyarat of Arbaeen. And you see other books, for example, Shaykh Tusi and Misbah al-Mutahajjid bringing the ziyarat of Arbaeen, or Shaykh Mufid mentioning this. So you see that this ziyarat, visiting Imam Hussein in general, the 40th, and on such a day is something that is in our old sources, is in the hadith, is from such scholars like Shaykh Tusi, Shaykh Ta'ifa, that some say, tens of years or 100 years after his passing away, that level of ijtihad was not present anymore. So therefore, it is in our sources. It is something that has taken place. Now, some like Sayyid Qadi Tabatabai mentioned that it being occurring even during the Umayyads or maybe the Abbasids, maybe in not this level that we see this now because of the pressure that was on the Shias. But he says that this people wanted to act upon this hadith, and they did visit Imam Hussein on the 40th. And we see that it is an extraordinary event, a remarkable event, and inshallah Allah will give us the tawfiq of having the reward of being of the visitors of Imam Hussein during Arbaeen. Because as Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, one of the old companions of the Holy Prophet, who was a mujahid, he fought with the Holy Prophet of Islam. When he comes and visits the shrine in the grave of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he mentions to Atiyah, who came from Kufa, he mentions to him that basically we will be given the reward of the martyrs of Karbala. And Atiyah is surprised, Jabir ibn Abdullah never, pulled out, unsheathed his sword, never fought. He wasn't present in Karbala. How can you get the reward? Basically, he tells them that whoever wants or desires or loves, whoever loves an action of a believer, of a group, then he will be rewarded of it. He will be participating in it. So Jabir is giving us this principle that if you wanted to do something, if you love to do something, and because of the circumstances right now, COVID-19 is around the world, is detrimenting the world, is killing many people, is making many people sick, unemployed. And because of the circumstances, we cannot participate in such an event because your heart is there and because Allah is all-merciful and is generous. Therefore, He will give you, from this tradition, will give you reward of Ziyarat Arbaeen, inshallah. And therefore, it is in our sources. But this ziyarat, I want to mention tonight, a few different lessons we can learn from this ziyarat. And it's recommended to read this ziyarat on the day of Arbaeen, and also to think about what the ziyarat is trying to tell us. One fascinating point about this ziyarat is that it mentions the reason why Imam Hussein alayhi salam uprose. Many people have attempted to analyze, to put together the different political situation and the different reasons and motives why Imam Hussein alayhi salam did not give allegiance to Yazid and later on uprose and revolted against, against Yazid. And he fought in the battle of Karbala and was martyred. So with all of these things said, the best way to understand why an infallible Imam does something is to look at the texts that we have, the hadith present, the du'as present, the Quran, you could say, the different hadith and scripture that we have. In this case, we see that in Ziyarat Arbaeen, that is narrated from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, we see that there is a clear explanation of why Imam Hussein alayhi salam was martyred and why he did uprise. We read in the Ziyarat, وَبَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ فِيكَ, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed his soul for you. Muhja, some can say, it could be the blood from the heart, right? So Imam Hussein gave. Badl means to give, and muhja means that blood, to give your life, your soul. He gave his life and soul for Allah. When first of all we talk about the first line, badl means to give, and you can give different things. Some give their money in the way of God, and that is like Lady Khadija. She gave all her wealth. She was, say in today's terminology, a billionaire. She gave all her wealth and was one of those in the valley of Abu Talib and was starving, one of those part of the Muslims that were starving in the siege and the Muslims, and she had given everything in the way of Allah. Two, we can see people that give their honor. Sometimes you see stories, for example, of some of our ulama, some of our scholars mediating, giving their honor because both sides appreciate them and respect them. The use of their honor in a way to make peace between two believers, or to help somebody out, or maybe somebody that is bankrupt, to help them out during their times that their debt collectors are coming. And the third is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam did. He gave everything in the way of Allah. He gave from the blood of his heart. He gave from his children in front of him. And everything he had, he gave and spent in the way of Allah. Then you see here in the ziyarat, lam comes, lam at-ta'leel. Lam that is giving you the illat and the cause. لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ, so he can save your servants from ignorance, ignorance, وَحَيْرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ, and the confusion of misguidance. So two things we understand from this ziyarat text. One is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed the blood of his heart and sacrificed himself and gave from the blood of his heart so that we can leave ignorance, so that the ummah of Islam can leave ignorance. And two, from the confusion of misguidance. Brothers and sisters, ignorance is the biggest problem of the world. Ignorance, look at some of the hadith we have from Imam Ali alayhi salam. It is the worst affliction is ignorance. Al-jahlu adwa'u da, Imam Ali alayhi salam has. Ignorance is the worst affliction. Imam Ali talks about ignorance as al-jahlu mumitu al-ahya. Ignorance is death for the living. Wa mukhallidu al-shiqa, and those that perpetuate wretchedness, it is what causes them to continue the wretchedness is ignorance. Al-jahlu fasadu kull amrin, ignorance is the ruination of every affair. These are all in the Quran al-Hikam. And Imam Ali alayhi salam narrated from him, Al-jahlu aslu kulli shar, ignorance is the root of every evil. Ignorance means that you do not know, right? So many people, when you look at the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, people were ignorant. They thought that doing bay'at to Yazid, doing allegiance to Yazid was an obligation for them because he was the caliph of the time. That Imam Hussein alayhi salam, not giving bay'at to him was something that was not acceptable for them. So you can see that when something in society downfall so much in society, and holy, infallible Imam, the grandson of the Prophet of Islam, doesn't want to give allegiance to an oppressor, someone that is corrupt, a wrongdoer, that people think of this as something that is allowed. So our main focus that we should have is to fight against ignorance, to educate people, educate ourselves, raise our Islamic literacy. Understand, sometimes because we don't know what to do, we harm ourselves or we harm others. Look at some of the traditions that we have from the Prophet of Islam alayhi salam. Ya Abu Dhar, إذا أراد الله عز وجل بعبد خيرا فقهه في الدين. When God, O Abu Dhar, when God the Almighty, the Exalted, wants good for His servant, He gives him a deep understanding of religion. That is true knowledge. That we have to understand, and we have to have a deep contemplation and deep thinking of our religious matters, where we are now, where we're going to go. We have a limited lifetime, what we're going to do with it. And what is our role right now? What is our duty? And who should we accept as our leaders and who we should not accept as our leaders? And which way should society move towards? So these are all obligations of our societal obligations, our individual obligations that all come from this evil of ignorance. That Imam Hussein alayhi salam wanted to fight against ignorance. Imam Hussein alayhi salam wanted to wake up the ummah, and this was the only way. There's a dead end, and this was the only way. And the second thing is, it says in the ziyarat we mentioned, we'll mention right now, وَحَيْرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ, and the confusion of misguidance. People were misguided. They thought that this was the right path. They thought that Yazid and the Khulafa are at the truth, but they were absolutely wrong. Yazid was absolutely wrong. And the truth was with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When you study Islamic history and you see tadween al-hadith, you see the prohibition of the compilation of hadith, and hadith is not allowed to be transmitted. It is being limited, is being restricted. And you can see from the very early stages after the Prophet of Islam has passed away, you see that Islam has derailed, just how Christianity or Judaism had derailed. And the Imams were from the family of the Prophet were those that gave life again to the Islamic law, gave life again to theology, Islamic theology, gave life again to Islamic ethics. And they brought back and taught people how to perform exactly their salat, their saum, their hajj. And they gave life again to Islam. Therefore, we understand that the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, their role was to give life and to reteach those things that were taught by their grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now we can see about guidance. When you think about that, Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed himself for us, sacrificed himself for guidance, because he is Misbahul Huda, he is Safinatul Najah, he is the lantern of guidance, he is the ship of salvation. When you think of guidance, you can divide it possibly into two definitions. Guidance or al-hidayah can mean ira'atul tariq, to show the path, to know where to go. So Imam Hussein was martyred, because of the confusion of misguidance, because people didn't know the path. People didn't know the way to reach God. And to wake them up that this is the path, the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Or the second is al-isal ila al-matlub, reaching what is desired, reaching the desired, reaching the goal. So what is the goal here? Proximity to God. taking you to the actual path. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam is Misbah al-Huda. He shows you the path. But also, he is Safinatul Najah. He gives you salvation and takes you on that path. He actually takes you, because there's nothing better than to approach God through the names of the Prophet of Islam, through the names of Imam Ali and Lady Fatima, Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. They are the best way to know God. They're the best way to get close to God. That crying for Imam Hussein, remembering Imam Hussein, visiting Imam Hussein is the fastest and best way, inshallah, to reach God. That he will take you ila al-matlub. He will take you to what is desired. He will take you to where you need to be. And that is the other meaning of hidayah and guidance. Maybe that is why in salat we say this over and over, ihdina siratan mustaqim. Take us towards the right path. Guide us towards the right path. Why? Because we're already guided, you're already doing salat. But take me to that final closeness and proximity to God. Guide me the utmost, and that is the closeness to God. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the lantern of guidance and the ship of salvation. Remembering him will cause you to become a better human being, because the infallibles are at the peak of the mountain. They're at the peak of our journey. And remembering them and connecting to them, to the prophets and their successors, is the best way for yourself to change. The best way for yourself to automatically, without thinking, spontaneously become like them, inshallah. At the end of this talk that we have, I'd like to mention one thing. So this is an apparent analysis from Ziyarat Arbaeen of why Imam Hussein alayhi salam uprose, to save us from ignorance and to save us from misguidance. But also you could say there's something else, there's an inner component. Just how verses of the Quran have an apparent meaning and also have a batin, an inner meaning, there's another inner meaning, not only for the people to guide them or to give them knowledge or to save them from ignorance. There's also something else we can understand and maybe say from the ziyarat. And that is this line, that when you say to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as-salam in the same ziyarat, as-salamu ala waliyillahi wa habibih, peace be upon you, vicegerent of God and his beloved. He is the beloved of God. As-salamu ala khalilillahi wa najibih. Peace to you, friend of God and his distinguished. So when you're the vicegerent of God, when you're his friend, you're his beloved, you're his friend, what does God do with his friends? What has God done with the previous prophets? He has given them trials and tribulations. And what do those trials and tribulations cause? They cause tarfi, they cause elevation in rank. That their status becomes higher and higher because they have sacrificed so much for God. Look at the story of Prophet Isa alayhi salam in the Quran. We believe that Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, did not have a father. And what kind of test that is? The test of honor for his mother, Lady Maryam, to be pregnant and to give birth without being married and nobody knowing who the father is. So Allah gave her a very difficult test and therefore brought the status of her up and brought the status of Jesus, son of Maryam, up. You see, Prophet Ismail alayhi salam and Prophet Ibrahim tested and to sacrifice his son. So you see multiple tests in the Quran, in the Hadith, that the Prophet of Islam and the Prophet himself is saying that no Prophet has been bothered or tried as much as I have been. So you see, the trials and tribulations belong to the Prophets, but their trials and tribulations is because of tarfi'. Allah wants to elevate our rank. A lot of times for us, our bala that happens due to us or to us is because of not planning well and not using our mind and intellect well, or because of the sins that we commit. But that is not for the infallibles. The infallibles don't have sins. They don't have miscalculations. There are things that Allah wants to test them with, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam was tested to show how much he can give to God. And God loves to see. God loves to see you sacrifice in this world, this temporary world, as if it doesn't exist, in this world, and to get an eternal place of happiness and proximity to God in return. So therefore, it is part of the relationship between master and slave, the commanding master and the slave and the servant, that the master commands, and the higher you are, the more he commands, the more he wants, the more he tries, into such a way that Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, answered God's call and sacrificed everything that he had for God. His children were martyred in front of him. His companions martyred in front of him. He was hidden so many times in the maqtal, it says, as a porcupine. He himself, his holy body, and then his family were taken captives. So he sacrificed everything for Allah. Why? Because he's Habib of God. He wants to give him trials and tribulations, and through these, he will elevate his rank. He will become Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. So at such a time period, one of the first visitors of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. This old companion now is coming, in Atiyah, came from Kufa, is taking him. Possibly he's blind, he's asking him to put, after taking a shower and bathing in the Furat, he's coming to visit Imam Hussein from Medina. And he's coming and asking Atiyah to take his hand. And slowly Atiyah is taking his hand and he puts it on the grave of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And imagine, it's Jabir ibn Abdullah, a mujahid. He was one of those that was at battle, and he fought alongside the Prophet of Islam. He saw Imam Hussein alayhi salam born. He saw all those narrations from the lips of the Holy Prophet of Islam. He saw those narrations that he is the chief of the youth of paradise. He saw Imam Hussein on the shoulders of the Holy Prophet of Islam. He saw those traditions that Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein alayhi salam. So he has saw all that narrations from the Holy Prophet of Islam. Now he sees that the ummah of the same Prophet has killed Imam Hussein, the son of the Prophet, the grandson of the Prophet. So he asks Atiyah to take his hand, and Atiyah takes his hands, and فَخَرَّ عَلَى الْقَبْرِ مَغْشِيًّا. The maqtal has. This old man, Jabir ibn Abdullah, this old Sahabi, comes and falls on the grave of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They awaken him. Atiyah says, I put water. When somebody faints, you put dripple water on him. He was awakened. And when he wakes up, he says this. He says, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein 3 times. Then he says, Habibun la yujibu habiba. My love, my friend, you're not going to answer the call of your friend. Your friend is here. Hussein, your friend is here. Why don't you answer your friend? ثم قال وأني لك بالجواب. I'll give you an answer. I'll tell you why you could not answer. وقد شحطت أوداجك على أثباجك. Because your veins, your arteries are now severed. This is why, Hussein, you can't answer Jabir. Because you have been martyred. Because your veins now have been severed. وَفُرِّغَ بَيْنَ بَدَنِكَ وَرَأْسِكَ. And has been separated your body from your head. The head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam has been taken away from his holy body and has been taken and raised on the spear. The head that has recited the Holy Quran. The head that went to Kufa, and the family of Imam Hussein had to witness this holy head, had to see this head, and this reciting the Quran, and this head that they say was given to his daughter Ruqayya in the dungeons of Sham. This head that Lady Ruqayya took in the dungeons, and as if she would take it and say, this is my lantern in this dark and deep dungeon. This head that Yazid would play with the lips of Imam Hussein with wood, with a stick. This head that alcohol was poured on it. Some say that this head was in Arbaeen, was now reunited with the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
رأس تو میرود بالای نژاد من زار میزنم در پای نژاد آه ستاره دنبال دار من زخمی تری سر نیزه سوار من
على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوسيلين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام. وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم يا أبا عبد الله يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبا ولعن الله ابن مرجان ولعن الله عمر بن سعد ولعن الله شمرا ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة يا أبا عبد الله يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وتقربوا إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحال وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم إني سلم لمن صالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبتني عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثانيكم مع إمام مهدي ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزية في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إنا هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكنة الأكباد اللعين وابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر طابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن الإصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني، وابدأ بي أولا ثم الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا، والعن عبيد الله ابن زياد وابن مرجانا وعمر بن سعد والشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان سجدة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين واصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.